Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the McGonagall Boxing Podcast. So let's break down Parker Wilder post-fight. Wow, oh wow, oh wow. I remember saying beforehand, like a few people, and I don't want to sound like, oh, I told you so. I said, there's going to be an issue here with Wilder if he doesn't get Parker out there early. Now, my first instinct was, okay, Wilder within 5. I thought he's going to detonate at some point, probably losing all rounds up until the detonation. However, what I didn't counter for was, his inactivity in throwing the right hand, his timing all over the place, and his tentativity. He was tentative, he was worried, he was scared at times of being countered. But going back to my original prediction, I said, there's going to be an issue here because Wilder's been out the ring 2 years. Parker's fought 4 times in the last year alone. He's getting better and better and better. Yes, I mean, he lost to Joyce over a year ago, but that was a real barnstormer, and that was early on with Andy Lee. I think that was like the second or third fight he took with Andy Lee, and I was like, wow, this is risky. Because as you know, it takes at least 6 months to bed in with a trainer. Probably really, to get your best out of you need, I would say, 18 months to 2 years. Now this is where it's kicking in, you see, because he's now been with Andy Lee 2 years, and you can see the improvements, you can see the confidence coming from Parker. Parker is still young as well. He's only 31, which people forget because he feels like he's been around a lifetime. Obviously, it's 5 years ago now since he fought Joshua for the unified title, and don't forget he beat Ruiz as a young man. He beat him back in 2017. So, he's 25 years old and not really developed and nowhere near his prime. As we know, heavyweights develop later, unless you're Mike Tyson or Ali, of course. But, so I think he's coming into his prime now. Phenomenal performance. He looks strong. And everyone was saying, that weight is too heavy for him. No, it's not. He's a grown-ass man now. He's 31. He's not 25. They're comparing him to when he won the title at 230. 245 is a beautiful weight for him now. He looks strong. He looks fresh. I think, admittedly, his last fight, he came in at 250. That's too heavy. And he looked a bit fleshy. But now he looks toned, but still strong. And it was a very good performance. But getting back to Wilder, people say 212 was a good weight for Wilder. I don't see that. I think that's too skinny. I'd like to see him 220. I think he's still quick. And obviously, he come too heavy against Fury. We all know that. And he gassed out. He doesn't want to be in the 230 range. But 219, 218, that's where I'd like to see him. 220, no more than 220. But 212, you get a bit light for my liking. And I think that's what happened. He got bossed around, pushed around. And, ultimately, as we said, though, the big thing was his inactivity. His timing was all over the place. But I don't want to look to be picking on the trainers every time a fighter loses. But Malik Scott needs to take a look in the mirror here, because I don't know what's happened in terms of Wilder's style, but it's almost like he's trying to do to Wilder what the previous trainers have been trying to do with Joshua. They're trying to turn a real heavy hitter, physical type brawler almost into a boxer. It's not going to happen. You need to get Wilder using his attributes, his strength, that detonating right hand. He needs to take the centre of the ring. He needs to be throwing haymakers. He needs to be throwing flurry of punches. Yeah? He can't be waiting to time the one punch. That's not going to get the job done against, someone who's in their prime and as good as Joe Parker, because you can see that coming. He needs to be throwing punches in bunches like he did in his prime, And I'm talking about, Stavern, Brazil, these fighters, but he came into that ring like a tornado, and he was throwing from the word go, wasn't he? Like a steam train, and eventually one of them will catch you and knock you out. But against Parker, he was tentative. He was almost like moving around the outside of the ring, sort of pouring his left jab, which wasn't doing much at all, and then occasionally trying to throw the right hand, which, to be fair, landed once or twice. I know sort of round 7, round 8, when he was being forced to by Parker, when Parker was starting to land on him. But apart from that, where was the urgency? Where was him stepping up, taking the fight to Parker? Parker was the one backing him up all the time. Parker was the aggressor, and Parker, like I say, saw that right hand coming all the time. And so when he did throw it, didn't land it, because it was almost like sending him a postcard. Here it is. He needs to get back to throwing more punches around. He needs to take the centre of the ring. He needs to be more intense. He needs to be the aggressor. That's Deontay Wilder. He's not a jab, slick move around the outside of the ring like an Ali was. He's not. That's not his style at all. He's not a boxer. I don't see why Malik Scott is trying to turn Deontay Wilder into a boxer. He needs to go with what he's got, especially at 38. It's too late to change. Be aggressive, especially he's been out the ring for 2 years. He should be looking to try to end that fight early. Put it on pressure, put it on Parker, not to try and outbox him. It's almost like he tried to, get a decision. And the only time he did put it on Parker was when Parker, like I say, was landing heavy on him. And then actually he buzzed Parker once or twice. But it was too little too late. And then after round 8, he went back into his shell, didn't he? He was almost like, I don't like this, because, he got buzzed badly by Parker, who grew more and more confident, and he got hit with a huge overhand right. And credit to Wilder, he's got heart, and he's got a decent chin for someone who looks so skinny, especially his legs. He can take a punch and he'll fight to the end. So I give him credit for that. But he looked a shell of his former self. The legs looked gone. There was no movement and no spark. Like I say, he just didn't look right at all. Now, he's sort of alluding to possible retirement. I'd like to see him come back, 3 or 4 months' time, with a solid fight, a fight he's going to win, someone outside the top 10, build his confidence up and go again. I'd like him to be calling Parker out for the rematch in 6 months' time. That's what he's got to be doing, trying to put that to bed, put that right. And, the money's there. I think Parker will take it. I think it's a big money fight, especially if Parker doesn't get like a final eliminator again, because obviously that ship sailed against Joyce, or a world title shot. Then he probably will take the rematch with Wilder, thinking he can beat him again. And that's what I'd like to see Wilder do. I'd like him to have a comeback fight, and then call out Parker. If he beats Parker, then he can get the Joshua fight on. I don't think that's completely dead in the water, but it's looking very, very slim now, isn't it? And the fact that they both signed the contract prior to both fights on Saturday makes it even more immensely frustrating, because that would have been an absolute barnstormer super fight, and it would have been who landed first. But on this performance, Joshua gets Wilder out there within 4 or 5 rounds. Compared Joshua, admittedly, all this nonsense about Wilder was just as tough as Parker, that's not true at all. Wilder came out of shape. He didn't look dynamic, hungry at all, did he? And he was a far easier opponent than Parker was. But even so, it's Joshua did look better. He looked improved. He looked more confident, and I think that version of Joshua beats definitely that version of Wilder comfortably on Saturday night. But I mean, listen, but Wilder's got to take a long look at himself. He's got to go, do I need to make a change here? Because Malik Scott, for me, seems like a best friend, not a coach. You can't have a best friend. You need someone you can respect and almost fear at times in your corner, who's not afraid to shout at you and scream at you. Look at, Dundee, shouting at Leonard, you're blowing it, son, you're blowing it. What you doing? Get your arse in gear. You need someone like that, I know Teddy Atlas is a bit dramatic, but same thing, saying to Timothy Bradley, get out there and fight. You need someone like that. He needed a pep talk. He needed that early on, after round 4, round 5. You're blowing it. You need a knockout, son. You need to be taking this to Parker. What are you doing, dancing and prancing around the outside of the ring, letting him come onto you, landing? He's growing more and more confident. You'll miss timing. Your timing's out of place. You've got to throw more punches. You've got to offset him. You've got to upspoil his rhythm. That's what someone should be saying to him. He says, you need a knockout. That's what they should have been saying early on to him. I know they were saying about the uppercut at times. Malik Scott used the uppercut, and yeah, he was too one-dimensional. Well, he was just pouring his jab, then trying to throw the right hand. But ultimately, he needed more than that. He needed to be screamed at. If he's not going to listen, you scream at him. You tell him, because Wilder can be deluded. I think, as you saw, he held his hand up after the fight, thinking he'd won. Every time he lost to Fury, it was because Fury cheated or robbed. he's a deluded man. And part of his strength is his own ego, of course. But you need someone who's a strong person, a personality, and who's not going to take any nonsense, even from Wilder, in his corner. So that needs to be looked at. But like I say, 38, he's probably got maximum 2 years left in the game. Is he going to make a change now? I don't know. He needs to get a move on, whatever he is, though, because I'd hate to see him retire on that. But he needs to rebuild, but rebuild quickly. You know, he can't have too long off. He needs to be back in that ring 3-4 months' time, and he needs to be fighting 3 times in the next year. No question about it. And he needs to be calling for that Parker rematch, and then cracking on with a world title shot or the Joshua fight, as far as I'm concerned. I think Wilder's got, if he's lucky, 4 or 5 maximum fights left in him. But he needs to get cracking, and he needs big improvements, and most importantly, he needs activity. As to Parker, he's been active, he's hungry, he's training right now. He's even taking himself away from his family for long parts, isn't he? They're in New Zealand. He's coming over to England to train with Andy Lee and Tyson Fury, and he's getting better and better and better. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, I give him a pass to the Joe Joyce fight, because it was a great barnstormer. You know, it was real competitive up to 11th round. And obviously Joe Joyce was then in his prime. He was hungry, you know, he was determined, and you know, and he really took Parker seriously. And obviously you're still in bed with Andy Lee. Now I feel you're getting the best of Andy Lee and Joseph Parker together. It's been 2 years and you can see the improvements. And I'll tell you what, Parker is going to be a handful for anyone in the elite. I'm not saying he beats Usyk, I'm not saying he beats Fury. Well, he'll never fight Fury because they're best friends. But I'll tell you what, he'll be a serious handful for Anthony Joshua. So it's going to be a great cut year, I think, for Parker, but obviously he needs to pick wisely now. He doesn't want to do a Joe Joyce and blow his opportunities. I'd like him to, you know, fight a competitive fight and then push on, hopefully, for a world title shot if he doesn't get the Wilder rematch in the next year. You know, they need to sit down, good matchmaking. You know, maybe Jamila. Maybe Jabbar after the impressive win. That'd be a good fight. Parker and Dubois, a competitive fight before he gets the huge rematch with Wilder or the world title shot or final eliminator again. Maybe Hrgovic. But you know, it's exciting times for Parker. As for Wilder, it's a serious rebuilding job and a busy one at that. Otherwise, if he's not in that ring within 6 months, he's done, as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, it's serious time for Wilder now. And as for Parker, it's looking like it's going to be a beautiful 2024. All right, guys, I'll catch you soon. And let's see how this plays out between both of these fighters. Interesting times. But what a performance and a rightful unanimous decision win for Parker. The judges, for once, didn't mess this up. A deserved win for Parker, who's ever improving. Watch out the heavyweight division.